you, and it's just good afternoon. Okay, 12:01. So good afternoon to all you ladies and gentlemen. I think it's my pleasure to moderate this panel, which is in some senses supposed to do some amount of what you might define as stargazing or futurescaping of what our retail journeys are likely to be. As part of this panel, I have an eclectic mix of people. We have Vikram. Vikram is a principal with Blackstone. Blackstone is one of the largest investors in the real estate space in India. And real estate means residential, retail, commercial. So he has a very important stake in the physical growth of retail and the way it can get leveraged to be able to make sure that the retail journey in 2020 and beyond stands the test of time. We have Adnan. Adnan is from Accenture. I can promise you that we won't have an overdose of Accenture today. We just finished Shanti from Accenture. Adnan heads the technology team of Accenture, and he will bring to bear, hopefully, certain perspectives relating to the way technology is driving, changing retail across the world, and hopefully in India too. Govind is, of course, a seasoned hand at what you might define as physical retail, which is the older, the old-fashioned part of retail, which typically tends to be undervalued, but has been the most dominant part of retail in this country, where physical retail still pretty much is 99% of the total Indian retail market. And Govind is part of that 8 to 9%, which is what we call as modern Indian retail, having been part of the first modern retail Indian store, which is Shopper Stop, which Nagesh started in 1992, and Govind has been currently running it for the last, 6, 7 years as managing director. So Govind's, a seasoned retail professional. Jamshed is also a very, very seasoned retail professional. He and I were colleagues at Titan, which is one of the largest exclusive brand retailers in this country, between Tanishq, Titan, Fast Track, etc. And then, having earned his spurs in a sense at Titan, went on to do various other businesses within the Tata Group, and currently heads the hypermarket business of the Tata Group, which is Star Hypermarkets. So Jamshed also comes in with a lot of physical retail experience. What I wanted to do first is to be able to, when we talk about the journey to 2020, what we also need to remember is that, how do we ever reach here? First of all, from way back till 2017, before we actually reflect on how do we get from 2017 to 2020. So if you were to reflect back on retail as we knew it, and certainly retail as I knew it when I was a child, retail actually meant at that point of time a neighborhood market. Retail meant that you would actually walk across to the nearest grocery store to be able to go and buy something from there. Retail also meant that you knew the retailer knew you. So before you walked into the store, he knew exactly what you wanted, and you went in there with an express set of needs, which you went to suffice. Retail also was about neighborhood markets. Markets where, whether it was, let's say, a DN Road in Bombay, or whether it was, let's say, a commercial street in Bangalore, or whether it's Connaught Place in Delhi, it meant specific markets where you would actually go and shop, because there weren't anything else like, malls and shopping complexes and all that. So all of what you actually had were stores in certain traditional areas that you would go and shop. Retail also meant that you actually doled out cash and bought stuff that you wanted. You never had the system of actually paying by card. Consumers in those days also were slightly different from the consumers that we know of today. And a consumer in those days, typically it used to be a larger family decision. So what you buy used to be decided by the families, and that is because joint families in those days constituted 65% of India's total population, which unfortunately today is only 35% of India's total population. So what it did mean is that in a joint family, you had 3 generations who lived there. And obviously, when you had to buy something, you couldn't take a decision on your own. So you actually would ask the elders in the family. The second part of it was that when you wanted to buy something, information was not so easily available. So by and large, you depended on recommendations. So you would ask somebody, if I wanted to buy a new television set, which brand should I buy? Which store should I go to buy? So a lot of it is about asking people to understand where exactly you had to go and shop. The other thing was about the fact that consumers also bought in bursts. It wasn't about being able to buy on a credit card and pay over 12 months. So you waited till you got a Diwali bonus, and after you got your Diwali bonus, then you went and splurged. And otherwise, you used your monthly salary to buy your basic necessities for the month, and all your indulgence purchases were related to the bonus. So if you were to look at, say, that 30, 35 years back, rewind forward now to 2010, 2015, and into our current year, 2017. So what do you see today? And when you look at today, what you actually are seeing are now shopping malls. So you see I wouldn't say the destruction, but the diminishing importance of the traditional shopping areas. So today, if you want to go and say in Bangalore, you want to go to Chickpet, which used to be a traditional shopping area, people complain, saying that, it's difficult to find parking, it's challenging to be able to get to that place in a car. So, can we go to a better place where we can actually find parking? So malls have come in, and because malls offer parking, malls offer air-conditioned environments, people have started slowly migrating to shopping at the malls, shopping in certain traditional markets, but some of the key traditional markets of the past have actually started diminishing in terms of importance. The second thing that is happening is that shopping is becoming more ubiquitous. It isn't about the fact that you bought everything at one point of time. So you still continue to buy your monthly necessities during the course of the month. Unlike in the past where you would go in the beginning of the month and stock up for the entire month, what is happening today is that you actually buy smaller quantities during the course of the month. So no longer is there that you go in and buy right in the beginning of the month the entire provisions for the month. Second thing is that the role of bonuses, the role of Diwali, and the role of the fact that you actually get a huge sum of money in your hands has actually changed to the fact that you get monies through the course of the year. You are able to spend on the back of your card, so because of which you don't really have to worry about when exactly you have cash in your hands, except when it comes to demonetization. And so the whole behavior around shopping has also changed. Because of the destruction of the joint family system and urban migration, what you do discover is that families which used to live in Dhanbad, the next generation are actually living in Bangalore or Hyderabad. So they're not familiar with where to go to shop, unlike shopping in Dhanbad. So what happens there is that they look around and they're trying to find from their friends, from the internet, from information which is available as to where to shop. What you're also seeing is that the traditional word-of-mouth advertising that happened in the past is getting replaced by peer reviews. So today you're actually seeking, let's say if you want to buy something on an online site, you first try and find out which online site is the best. Then you try and look at the customer reviews which are there on the online site. You look at the pros and the cons which have been expressed by people who've actually bought that same product, and then you take a call. To help you in your decision making, brands are actually making sure that they provide you a whole bunch of information. So when you walk into an electronics store, unlike the past, where the salesman in the store was actually the actual arbiter of knowledge, who would tell you what are the things which are good about this brand or the next, and help you make the decision. Today what's happening is when you walk into an electronics store, you're armed with more information about what you want to buy than the salesman in the store. So you are clearer about the brands that you want to buy. So the entire information arbitrage opportunity which used to be in the past has also changed. If you also look at, we've talked about the connected customer in keeping with the larger theme. We also know that today information is available more easily, to everybody in their hand tips. So what is changing today in terms of markets and consumers is, it's quite a dramatic shift from what we were used to in the past. So it's in this context that we should be really looking at what is likely to happen, not just in the next 3 years, but let's say 2020, 2025, 2030. And what I'd like to do to be able to use the next maybe about 35, 40 minutes is to pose a few questions to my fellow panelists to be able to elicit some understanding from them in terms of what exactly are they looking at when they look at, let's say, the next 3 years and the next 5 years. So Jamshed, may I turn around to you since you're in the grocery retail business. In terms of, let's say, the transactional data, which is currently available with all grocery retailers, especially since the frequency of purchase is so high, it probably runs into terabytes of data as to what exactly are people buying in terms of brands, in terms of product sizes, where exactly are they buying? Are they buying in your store here or in another location where your store is? The same customer, how frequently are they buying from you? So when you are deluded with this data, and we all now, are confronted with issues such as, say, big data, analytics, how are you actually getting your hands around something like this? And what are the kind of things that you're doing within your organization to be able to address this larger theme of big data and analytics?
Yeah, so Bijou, let me give a couple of comments on what you said as a preamble, and then I'll move into the question. See, the good news as far as India is concerned is that the more things change, the more they remain the same. And the reason is quite simple, and that is because, our GDP growth is faster than the population growth. As a result of which, every year there are more people earning more money, and because more people are earning more money, while some people move up, a lot more people come from below, into the bottom end of the pyramid. So while for an individual over time the experience does change, there are enough people coming in for the people who are serving that experience to remain the same. So, like you talked about Chickpit, while those who have cars find it difficult to go to Chickpit, if you go to Chickpit even today, those who don't have cars still go to Chickpit. Because there is another wave of people which have come into the business, and because of that, the Indian retail fabric, while it will enhance itself, is unlikely to be completely overturned or changed, at least in the foreseeable future, and I'm talking about a 5-10 year horizon. Having said that, I think overall everybody will get smarter. And when I say everybody, I include the smallest retailer right down to the large chains. And based on that, we come to your question, Bijou, about analytics and the role that analytics plays and how we in our company are planning to deal with it. See, I think the good part about grocery retail currently is that grocery retail is in many ways a creature of habit. People don't keep changing their food styles every day. People don't keep changing their shopping habits every day. And therefore, as far as grocery shopping is concerned, there is a rhythm to grocery shopping. And therefore, because there is a rhythm, the kind of data that we collect basically helps us trying to understand what is that rhythm which customers are following in order to fulfill their shopping needs. While the amount of data we collect is high, the kind of analysis and cuts that we need in our data is not very sophisticated. Basically, we need to understand shopping patterns in terms of frequency, and we need to understand shopping patterns in terms of basket size. And these two are quite easily done based on the amount of data we collect. There is a next level of data wherein we need to start cutting in terms of lifestyle and in terms of demographics, psychographics, etc. Frankly, we don't do that. But what we do is we study the buying pattern, the goods that are bought, the kind of items that form part of the shopping basket, and from that reverse sort of in a way map our customer profile. So in many ways what big data is helping us do is by looking at clues of how people shop and then trying to help us paint a picture of who these people are who shop what they shop. And that gives us very useful insights, both in terms of targeting the people and in terms of constantly refreshing our product and service mix to therefore enhance the experience for the people whom we choose to enhance the experience for. So to my mind, the ability to analyze data is extremely important from this larger picture point of view of working back to what customer segments are actually shopping. But more importantly, I think this level of data is also giving us a means for real-time decision making. So today we are not a very large company, but we are still 45 stores. And tomorrow we'll become 100 stores, and we become 150 stores. It is virtually impossible to manage by using Excel spreadsheets and trying to figure out what is going on. And to my mind, the larger you grow, the lesser but the more important stuff you need to know. Otherwise you'll get completely bogged down. And I think it's not about the availability of big data, but being smart enough to focus on what is important within the data that is available, which helps you take real-time decisions. And I think the key to big data, which is what we are learning, is not whether how you analyze the big data. Is first, can you ask the right questions? So we are learning to do that, how to ask the right question, and how to get an outcome from the analysis which helps us take action. So we don't want to see pretty charts and graphs coming out of the analytics function without any actionability. And what we are therefore working on today is asking the right question and making sure that we can take action on the right question. And that, to my mind, going forward will be one of the biggest challenges which we retailers will face, because data will be available. And especially with the movement on online where even more data is available, that will not be the problem. Bijou.
Thanks, Jamshed. Adnan, I think we heard Shanti speak earlier about the fact that you all are enabling retailers to perform better.
Right.
And I think as an international technology company, international technology consulting company, is it possible for you to share some of the work that's happened internationally in this whole space of how retailers have embraced data, and as Jamshed said, used it to be able to further improve their businesses?
Right. I think Jamshed made some very valid points. I think one of the things that have happened post-digital era and post-digitization, when somebody, the first step is always digitization, and then you start looking at what is the next stage of where do I move. I think one of the things that the foundation of every technology that you can imagine today is fundamentally built on analytics. If you don't know what is coming, you don't know what you have to do. So that's the foundation of what needs to be done. So I think one of the things that is extremely powerful for a retailer is to understand both the supply and the demand side. And analytics gives that view into what my customers want and who are my customers. And these two things that have to tie in to actually give you the insights. And one of the points that Jamshed made was about the data. So I think the data is available. It was always available. It used to be in Excels, it used to be in papers, and then we moved on to very intelligent databases. The key is, do we understand it? Are we asking the right questions? And are we taking the right actions? I think one of the things that a lot of retailers are struggling is we are looking at the next generation of technology within old KPIs. Our benchmarks are still old in terms of looking at how am I doing, while the world has sort of moved on in terms of what should be my KPIs in the new world, what we call as the new IT. And that is the fundamental change in the mindset that a retailer has to do from the old world to the new world, built on analytics. And some of the examples, I think, any global retailer that you look at, you talk about hyper-connected customer, hyper-personalization. All this is built on the fundamentals of analytics. Huge databases. And what has done is, I think what digital has done is it has democratized the whole data thing. You look at the cloud technologies, what it has done. I could be a small company or I could be a large company, and I can set up the systems within a week, within 2 weeks, something which used to take me months and years of planning. So all this technology is sort of bringing together to actually give you on-demand data, what you need to understand from that data, and what actions you need to take. I think what we need to do as retailers is, what we help with the retailers as Accenture is to redefine the KPIs, that you have the data, what you need from data, but how do you measure that? If you don't measure, you don't action. And that's where the focus is.
Sure. So when you think of analytics, it's probably a more sophisticated word for analysis.
Correct.
And when you look at analysis, what's enabled analysis, I think more recently, is the intelligent coupling of the brain with technology. One of the areas that we typically tend to analyze, Govind, is where do we put up a store? And when we look at where do we put up a physical store, the challenge that we always face is to be able to understand, what a city is comprised of, which are the micro markets within that particular city, what are the kind of needs within these different micro markets, and consequently, which micro market should I be positioned when? What seems to have changed that apple cart is the fact that today online, leveraging the internet technology, is able to reach many, many more micro markets than what we can do physically. Two questions to you. One part of it is that as you go forward in terms of expanding your network, how are you using the fact that access is today available not just through physical stores, but also through digital stores? And the second part of it is that if access is available both through physical and digital stores, how are we making sure that we are actually leveraging both those technologies to be able to create a more synergistic appeal to the customer? I don't want to use a very sophisticated term of omni-channel, but at least a way in which we can present ourselves in a more unified manner to the customer.
Okay, pretty complicated and, am I audible?
Maybe.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. So I think pretty philosophical question at that level. And I think when you are called a Kumbhakarna to begin the day, difficult to really imagine how are we going to cope up with this kind of an answer. So let me try and understand some parts of this story and some pieces that I've already heard. So what we already know is that organized retail in India is still not even 15%. That we still know. We still know that people go to Linking Road to shop for their shoes. They still go to MG Road, other streets, TN Market, everything in Chennai and many other markets as well. And online, for all the talk that we have heard from them, it's still 1%, 2% of the total retail. So all the access is available, but if you pick up all the numbers that are available as of date, 21,000 crore of sale and 12,000 crore of loss. I don't know what access this is all about. And fundamentally, this access, which leads to big bleed, fundamentally cannot be a sustainable model. So coming back to the basic question, I think the basic question is how do we really look at which cities to go, what micro markets to go. Yes, we do have enough data currently available of metro, mini metro, etc. And the big data point that we still don't have is what are the real shopping habits. And I'll give you an actual example about how successful we are in certain cities and why are we not successful in specific cities. And in fact, on the panel there are some of us who have been very successful in big metros like Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore, but not very successful in markets like Punjab because we don't understand that market. And why don't we understand that market? Because we operate, as we keep on saying, for the top 5%, top 10% of the market, our habits, our needs, what we understand, we convert for customer, and that's how we really create the store. And when we go to Punjab, we understand, boss, there is nobody who is a working woman, there is nobody who is a corporate, and everybody is a farmer, and we don't understand the farmer. So if you have to beat that problem, we need to understand the farmer, and I think we need to walk those cities to really understand and get a connect. So at the end of the day, I think one of the points that I heard is love index, and I believe clearly in that fundamentally there has to be a connect between a brand and a retail and a customer. And if the connect is missing, all your research, all your assortment is of no good because the connect is completely missing. And when you talk of omni-channel, I think that's the next step. So from Kumbhakarna, the chapter that we are trying to open is becoming a Chitragupta. And why Chitragupta? I think I mentioned it last year also. Chitragupta is the only guy sitting in the sky, keeping account of everything that we are doing or not doing, right, wrong, etc. So omni-channel is really speaking a Chitragupta, one view of customer that we need to really have in my store, outside the store, wherever he is doing, on social media, on Facebook. Yes, it is a worrisome fact, and I'm not going to say Mitro, don't get worried, because only the honest pair will not have to worry. All the unhonest guys, dishonest guys have to always worry on this kind of a phenomena. But I think it's a big challenge, because this kind of a data available with Google, Uncle Sam, or anybody for that matter can be definitely be worrisome. And with all the promises that all these guys give you that they'll not misuse the data, we already seen number of problems that have happened in US where data breaches have happened across multiple categories. I think yes, there is definitely a time for worry for that. But fundamentally, what are we trying to do with the data? We are trying to help the customer to shop better, understand their needs better. And as time progresses, I think we are also looking at how do I customize products for them better, personalize products for them better, and even personalize offers for them better. So I think that's the answer from my side, Bijou,
Sure.
from Kumbhakarna to Chitragupta.
So on the Chitragupta example of yours, if you wanted to, create this unified view of the customer as far as an organization is concerned,
Yeah.
how do you actually make sure that you know who your customer is? How do you make sure that you track all their needs?
Correct.
And how do you ensure that your organization responds across all channels to their needs?
So we have gone on to a journey of the whole omni-channel for Mission 2020 with three basic building blocks to it. That's called, one is called one view of customer, second is called one view of inventory, and third is called one view of order. When you merge all the three, you really get this entire vision of what the customer is doing, what they might want to buy, what has been their shopping behavior in the past, whether online, offline, marketplace, etc. How do they behave on social media? Are they going on a trip, road trip, swimming trip, whatever? And what are their interactions happening between them and their friends as well? And are they returning goods on online too much? Are they not paying COD versus credit card, whichever way, store or online? So all that data basically is one view of customer, one view of stock, and one view of inventory is what we are building through multiple technologies which are coming between IBM, SAP, Oracle. One of the biggest stories below that is our JDA ERP with a WMS called Red Prairie, which is what we are executing right now. So each of them becomes a building block through technology to achieve that ultimate goal.
Great. Thanks, Govind. And Vikram, you've been a very large investor in physical retail spaces in addition to a lot of your other real estate investments. And, when you see malls not getting filled up fully, when you look at, let's say, low single-digit like-for-like sales growths, which kind of inhibit confidence and expansion of physical retail, is there a way in which you're looking at being able to make the mall a better place to be in than what it used to be in the past? Is there something in your investment experience which is beyond finance, but looking largely from a consumer perspective of your investment in malls and examples where malls have actually really used that physical space to create a great experience for customers which go beyond the stores that are creating their own experience?
I think yes. I mean, so if you've seen what's happening across retail in other markets, and India's obviously, as Govind mentioned, is a small market still, we really are seeing the whole customer experience journey right from him when he walks into a shopping center, be it in a parking lot, walking into the washrooms. I think what we're seeing definitely is a big trend. F&B and entertainment, I think, are becoming a large part of retail centers where they're starting to play a very, very important role. I think one of the things that we still, and talking about data, I think is we're trying to see how we can use some of the technology as mall owners or developers, just to see how we can in turn use some of the data to collaborate with retail partners. I think one of the things that we're still not seeing is there a way that we collecting a lot of data, retailers are collecting a lot of data, is there a way that you can collaborate? I mean, there is a way, there's online merchandising. Is there a way that a customer, when he walks into the shopping center, knowing his customer habits from the data that you have, is there a way to disseminate information to retailers saying, this customer has now entered the mall. This is the offer that we have for certain categories, and use that to disseminate some of the information to retailers who in turn could use that to send what offers they have. So I think the idea really would be, and digital is some of the things that we're seeing happening, be it in, and Westfield is a great example of people who've used, they call a center called Westfield Lab, which we spoke about. I think what they're doing is basic stuff like ticketless and cashless parking. Is that something that we can achieve over time? Can we, one of the things that we thought about is we have a large commercial portfolio. Is there a way that we can use our food courts intelligently to actually deliver food to these park users through app, through various technology? So I think the idea will continue to be the whole customer experience. And I think more and more as we grow into this journey, I think it'll be important that how we as mall owners become enablers to retailers and the customer. I think that's going to be very, very important.
Great. When you look at technology, one of the things that we always remember about technology is we think sometimes technology is a challenge for consumers to experience. But when you look at, say, for example, the Indian Railways, one of the first users of technology to be able to sell tickets online. And if you look at the work that's happened on top of that technology stack, where you have, let's say, somebody like a Travel Khana, who's able to deliver food to you when you're actually moving in a train based on your PNR number and your request and your station, etc. They know exactly where to find you in the train. And what you do realize is that, this is not happening just because of the Indian Railways. It's happening because Indian Railways first created a certain technology platform, and based on that, there are a lot of people who are collaborating with the railways to be able to enable and leverage this particular technology platform. Even when we look at the Indian startup ecosystem, what we are discovering is that none of them are actually retailers. A lot of them are actually trying to find solutions to specific retail pain areas. So what we're all looking at when we look into the future is a more collaborative world. A world where we all need to be figuring out how to work with each other in order to be able to make sure that we can actually benefit out of it. So other examples that you would like to share about the kind of collaborative work that you're doing, which is beyond what you're doing, what is your core business, but which you're working with somebody else to be able to make sure that your experience gets better.
So Bijou, let me give you in a slightly lighter way and give you a conversation. Time and again when we sit on these panels, we used to have people who used to keep saying that brick and mortar dead, online. Now, and every panel they keep changing, but three of us keep remaining. And therein lies a story. Because I think, so I used to sit on a panel with these guys who do these food delivery business, they pick up from restaurants and come to your home like Food Panda and all. And they kept saying online. But I said, but you pick up from a restaurant and that's physical. And if the restaurant has a USP, 5 of you online guys will be running after one restaurant and not one restaurant running after 5 guys. So you cannot have this online and offline kind of constant general conversation. And that to my mind is the key barrier to collaboration today. That there is a set of players, and many of them will also come over the next 2 days who will say that the online is king and offline is dead. There are some people in the government who are saying that, by the way.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
But I think the picture is totally wrong. As it is about collaboration, it is about seeing who has the best leverage and the best competitive advantage in a particular scenario, and how do people get together to leverage that. So for example, in our company, we realized that we don't have the wherewithal and the bandwidth to go online right now. We are managing to consolidate our own business. So we have had a chat with Amazon now. We are on their website. We are learning the business. They benefit because we are on their site. We benefit because we are learning the business and reaching out to another set of customers. And I think that's the name of the game. And when people start realizing that it is not about online or offline, it is about giving the customer an optimal experience, that this spirit of collaboration will really take a leap. Even in the physical space. And I'm happy we are hearing this conversation on malls. I remember around 10 years ago when this mall thing was booming and the mall operators were running hot. To them, a retailer was a person who paid rent and cam. And very often more cam and less rent. So they had a kind of odd situation. And I used to always wonder as to what is the KPI of the mall owner. So you're taking rent from me, you're charging me cam. But you seem to have no performance KPI at all when it comes to that. And then now the situation has changed, and I think mall owners also realize it's mall owner plus retailer equals to consumer experience, and you cannot separate the two. And that is the spirit of collaboration which will really spur this industry forward. It also is in the supply chain. I mean, we work a lot directly with farmers, and irrespective of what the government will tell you, farmers are very happy to work with modern trade, let me assure you that. And in that spirit of collaboration, they are getting paid more, and we are buying for less. So it's there is a huge amount of opportunity of working together to satisfy the consumer, and I think the game has just begun in this space, because there are like-minded people who have realized that business is not about valuation, business is about delivering to consumers.
Great. Adnan, in terms of collaborative technologies, finally, in the end of the day, as retailers, we buy from a supplier and provide the product or the service to a customer. So we are like intermediaries in this entire business. And the efficiency of our operation depends largely on our good understanding of the customer's requirements and ensuring that we're able to speedily respond to that need of the customer by sourcing quickly from the supplier. So have you seen in this entire value chain from supplier to customer opportunities for us to do things differently, given the fact that there are newer state-of-art technologies available which enable collaborative planning in response to a customer need?
Right. Just to respond to Jamshed, just to be fair, even though you three are not changing, I'm a pro store. That's where the strength is. Even though we may be changing, but I think the strength is in the store. I think on the technology side, I think most of the conversations we have with all the CIOs and CEOs of various large retailers is that I think the fundamental is everyone is grappling with the pace at which technology is sort of changing. The fundamental question is, where do I invest? I mean, I've just started up a program, and by the time I actually see the value in the program, the world has moved on. So I think there are two fundamental changes in the way organizations are changing. I think we don't realize the fundamental of, we look at retail as a retailer, but I think at the end of the day, you're also an organization. All the organizations are changing, IT organizations are changing. Accenture has changed in the last so many years in rotating to the new technologies. But what we need to also look at is that there are two things that are going to be extremely critical for a retailer in the coming days, and that's what is based on some of the conversations we have had with the client, is adaptability and speed. And that's where, if you remember, 5-7 years back, the strategy used to be saying, what is our 5 years plan? We are sitting today, we are talking about 2020, which is largely 3 years from now. Most of the transformation programs that I've worked in, they used to be 5 years, became 36, now it's 24 months, and you have to sort of move on. If you don't do, the technology has fundamentally changed, and you don't know where you're going sort of next. So I think that needs to be extremely important. You have to, and that's the way your organization needs to adapt to some of these changes that are happening. I think technology, where we are, is not what we're going to see in next 10 years. We are at the top of the hill, and it's just going to go downhill from here. So I think that's the fundamental.
So what do you mean by that, going downhill from here?
It's going to be much more faster than.
Much faster than
yes,
this.
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. Okay. When we talk about all of these things, the fact that technology is changing around us, customers are changing fast, market landscapes are changing, even the competitive landscape is changing because India is changing, import barriers have been reduced. You can see that there are several changes in terms of FDI regulations which permit several new people to come in. We also have seen that in the retail space, competition is not from your defined competitor, but competition is coming from undefined competitors who suddenly appear on the scene and then are eating your lunch. So when you really look at this, how are we changing as organizations? Are we understanding all these changes? Are our organizations understanding these changes? How are we reinventing our organizations to make sure that they become future-proofed, in as much as our understanding of the future improves? So I'd like each of you all to share things that you all are doing within your organization, which will help us to get a better understanding of how to prepare for the future.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very important question which we are grappling with. And I think initially when modern retail came into the country, in my view, we used what was an omnibus approach to customers. Basically saying, everybody is welcome, provide a wide range, and everyone you will sort of pour in to your shop. And that is because in the early stage, you were just looking at more and more people coming in. I think given the complexity and the volatility of the environment, I think each of us has to now figure out what is the addressable target audience. Because things are moving so fast that if you try to address everybody, you tend to address nobody. And therefore, arriving at an addressable target audience and then deepening the understanding of that addressable target audience to give better and better products and services is something which we see as a challenge and an opportunity going forward, so that whatever be the vulnerability, there is a set of people who we know better than anybody else, and because we know them better than anybody else in our space, we are able to service them better than anybody else, and we need to cling on to that as opposed to try and be everything for everybody and land up being nothing for nobody. And that is the first area of focus that we have. And therefore, if there are certain areas which we feel for short-term reasons we must do, because we've got the space or because we've got a revenue target to achieve, go out and look for partners. So in our case, we decided that, this, as it is, food retail is a complex business now, in that dealing with apparel is a pain. Because, it's a totally different mindset, frankly. So in our case, our entire apparel is managed by Westside, completely. Because, there is no point in me creating expertise. And if Westside was not our sister company, we would have gone to Govind and said, please manage our apparel for us, or anybody else for that matter, because it's just not in our DNA and we can't do that. We are doing the same for other ranges like toys and all. We've got Landmark as a company, they're going to manage it, so as to tighten our focus, deepen our understanding, and then deepen our engagement with our customer set, Bijou. That's how we are grappling with this issue.
Govind, since Jamshed mentioned that fashion is a challenging category, and as a leading fashion retailer in this country, how are you reinventing your organization to meet these needs?
I think there are two clear objectives that we are looking at. One is mindset. I think the biggest challenge in a mindset is that we believe that what we did yesterday will work today. And in fact, everything shows that what you did yesterday, if you continue to do today, the returns are going to be lower and lower. And you can see it from multiple movies, heroes, heroines. If they continue to do what they did yesterday, if you don't reinvent, I think you have a problem. You will be irrelevant from the customer point of view. So the mindset that you can be irrelevant, I think is a key driver for change. And if you don't have the change, I think you have a problem. Second big thought process is really not word speed, but word called velocity. And I think I talked about it last year. And velocity actually is 4 parts, and I'll explain to you what the 4 parts are. Velocity comprises of speed on one hand, second is direction, third is discipline, and fourth is acceleration or deacceleration. And there's no better example for this other than 2 biggies right now in Indian cricket, Virat Kohli and Ashwin. And if you look at Virat Kohli, his success doesn't come only from his batting prowess, but also the discipline of spending time in the gym, making his body like an athlete, number one. Number two, when I talk about direction and acceleration, deceleration, both Ashwin and Virat Kohli are fantastic when you watch them, either in a 50-over match or a 5-day match. Because in a 50-over match, in the first 20 overs, you are trying to ensure that you are building a platform and then you start hitting, and that's where your acceleration, deceleration comes into play. If you lose wickets, you deaccelerate, again go into acceleration. Same you can find out from Ashwin, how he has changed his bowling style, what kind of carom ball he wants to bowl, at what speed, or slow speed or no speed, is again acceleration, deceleration. So if you understand this word called velocity, which has got 4 components as I mentioned, it has to have direction. Any strategy must have a direction. Rather than trying to do everything that the others have done, I think is a big problem. Second is speed, because if you can't really run with speed, you'll be left behind. Third, acceleration, deceleration, when do you stop? Because a lot of times we are in this whole hurry of growth, growth, growth. Sometimes you have to stay back and say, look, let me consolidate. Let me not bleed money. Let me earn more money so that I can defend myself and grow when the time is right. And last is discipline. How do you really keep on doing the same thing again and again? Retail is a very boring game, I can tell you that. Every day morning you go and see the figures. Sometimes you get upset, sometimes you are happy. But at the end of the day, you have to keep on digging deeper and deeper. What is work, what is not worked, and go back to the customer and understand which city is working, which city is not working, which category is working. But this boring, you have to convert into love so that you can give back to the customer what they want and remain connected. So those are the 2 big thoughts that we are working on.
Sure. So thanks, Govind. And in keeping with your tune of love, let me